What's up, fellas, ladies, bots, watchers, agents? Welcome. Back at it with some more watermelon. Like I said to you guys, I can't get enough of watermelon, bro. It's a perfect food. God is good. Okay, let's get into the topic. All right, you guys. So I noticed one of my videos kind of blew up, and I figured I'd expand on that subject matter, because apparently that's something that resonates with people. So what we're going to talk about in this video is psychedelics. Okay. And I consider cannabis a psychedelic. So just to be clear, when I talk about psychedelics, we're talking a lot of plant medicine and also some synthetic things like LSD, 2CB, and then there are, of course, synthetic versions of psilocybin, like for ACO DMT. So all these research chemicals, obviously, if you can't tell already, I'm somebody that has a little bit of experience in this department. So just to make it clear for you guys, I'm speaking from a place of experience on this, personal experience, also a lot of research that I've done. I didn't mention DMT, it's another big one. So ayahuasca, mescaline. All right. So, and this is, of course, because this is a semen retention, channel. All right. That's really the main focus here, and developing ourselves, self-mastery. That's what this is all about. So I'm gonna put this behemoth of a watermelon down, so we can get into it here. All right. So I think that the topic of psychedelics is very relevant to the practice of semen retention. It's relevant to any spiritual practice, because what is it that we're doing when we're on a spiritual journey, right? It's like a lot of people would call it like we're seeking truth, we're seeking God, we're on a quest for enlightenment, as it were. And so, of course, anybody that's familiar with the world of spirituality is probably familiar with the world of psychedelics. And a lot of people tend to equate those two things, like they go hand in hand, like doing psychedelics is like a spiritual thing to do in a lot of people's minds. And so here's my take on this. So this is based off of my personal experience and a lot of research that I've done. I'm somebody that's tried just about everything. All right, both in the world of psychedelics and in the world of like yoga and different meditative practices, Kriya, Kundalini, Tantra, Hatha, you name it. I've dabbled in different forms of Buddhism, Zen, and Dzogchen, and all of these things, right? I've dug pretty deep, I'm pretty familiar with the work of Ram Dass. And so just to qualify myself for you guys, so at current, I'm somebody that isn't dabbling with any of this stuff. So let me just put it this way. I don't want to be somebody who is going to come out here and tell you guys what's right and wrong for you, because I believe that that's a personal journey. This spiritual journey that we're on is a very personal journey, and you have a voice within you that will tell you the truth if you're willing to hear it. We all have that voice, okay? A lot of people just aren't willing to listen to it, or they hear it and then they use mental gymnastics to justify certain behaviors that they know are wrong. All right. So I don't want to be the one to come here and tell you what's right or wrong for you. That's not what I'm here to do. Okay. I'm here to speak truth and come from a place of personal direct experience. All right. So I'm not going to come out here and say psychedelics are wrong. Nor am I going to come out and say that they're right. I have a position of neutrality on this subject. All right. But I'm just going to talk about where I'm at with it and where I currently stand with this. Okay. So one thing I certainly believe in, and this applies to all areas of life. This applies to physical fitness. This applies to mental health. This applies to our diets, our everything we do in life, is there are no real shortcuts. There's really no such thing as a shortcut. Like, you can take shortcuts. There are these methods, like, let's say, for example, bodybuilding using steroids. That would be a shortcut. But see, what happens when we take shortcuts in life is generally there are consequences. There's like, they tend to backfire on us. If we get to the goal too quickly, we're very likely to lose everything we've gained. And so I'm going to give you guys an analogy for this. And I think this is probably the best analogy that I could come up with for the psychedelic shortcut, because that's what I consider this. Psychedelics are like a shortcut, right? It's like a window into a greater level of consciousness, but merely a window, because it ends, right? It ends. I mean, and this is why I don't want to paint with too wide of a brush, because sometimes these things can actually lead to like permanent lifestyle changes for people. But the thing is that when it really, really works, they don't continue to take the psychedelic. They put it down. It just pushes them in a certain direction, and then it's up to that person to go in that direction. And at a certain point, the psychedelic becomes useless. So I have a couple analogies for you. Got to speak with analogies here. So let's say that a psychedelic for you served to be something like a raft that takes you from one side of a body of water to the other, right? Now, when you get to the other side of that body of water, are you going to take the raft with you? Or are you going to try and carry it across the land and up the mountain? Let's say you get there and now there's a mountain to climb. Are you going to bring that? No, you can't. You got to leave it there because it served its purpose, right? It's like stepping stone. Okay. So it can serve as a stepping stone, but we have to keep moving if we want to keep growing and evolving and moving forward on the spiritual path, right? So another analogy I'll throw at you guys. Let's imagine that our goal was to climb Mount Everest. And let's say the top of Mount Everest represents enlightenment. Now imagine that you could take some sort of craft and have somebody just fly you up there and drop you at the summit. And you just get out. What's going to happen? Well, you're going to have an incredible view. It's going to look amazing. You're probably going to go, wow. Next thing you know, you'll probably die because the altitude, because you didn't acclimate to the altitude. You didn't earn that. Somebody took you up and dropped you there. You see what I'm saying? So you can't stay there very long. You'd have to have on some sort of oxygen mask, a spacesuit even, right? Something like that. However, people that make the arduous journey to the top, they train for this, and each successive elevation, they have to like kind of set camp there and acclimate and then move, right? And so there's no shortcuts when you climb Mount Everest. It's a journey. It's a serious journey. So by the time you get to the top, you're able to actually sit there and appreciate it because you actually earned it. And then you might be able to come back down, survive, and be able to tell the story. So psychedelics are like a shortcut. Now, it's valuable to know that there's a there. Like, it's valuable to know that there is something worth aiming at, but we have to be wise about how we get there. I hope that makes sense, right? And so, like I said in the beginning, I really don't want to be somebody that's going to tell anybody else how to live their life, what to believe, what's okay for them and what isn't, right? So personally, I'm a Christ follower, right? That's in my darkest moment in life, I reached out, I cried out to God. And the experience that I had was that Jesus came to me and saved me. And ever since has been reforming me. And ever since then, I've been on semen retention, okay? And the semen retention journey for me has been extremely psychedelic. And maybe that has something to do with my history and the way that I'm interpreting what's happening to me. But at the same time, it's it's undeniably expanding my consciousness and making things brighter and more beautiful. And I have a greater appreciation for nature, and I also have a greater sense of distrust in the world, if you know what I mean. So it's like, if I'm speaking to fellow psychonauts out there right now, you all know the experience of, like, you've ever been to the supermarket on acid and you're trying to buy a piece of fruit or something. First of all, you look around, it's like all the processed food. If you're on enough acid, it's like, what even is that? You know, and you want a piece of fruit, and then you're like confronted with how bizarre is this? Did I have to trade this money or this card or for the fruit that just came off a tree? Why don't I just get it off the tree? Like, what is this? What's the money? And then you get the money out, and you pay the cashier. The whole thing is so bizarre. The lighting, all of it. You're just like, what is going on here? And you just want to go to the forest. You know, you just want to, right? So being on retention, that's my permanent state, right? But the difference is, and this is why I would say it's better than psychedelics, is because I can still go to the store and I can deal with it. Whereas I remember when I was taking, doses of psychedelics and doing stuff like that, I mean, I'd get to the store and it was just overwhelming. It's like my brain was going to explode. I'm like, get me out of here. Now I can go there and I notice everything that I used to notice. It's stark and just in your face, but I can handle it. I maintain, I'm in this zone in a very sustainable way, in a very holistic and natural way, right? So this is not something that I took a shortcut to achieve, right? I've had to abstain from all sexual activity and any form of lust for months and months and months in a row, right? So that's like a climb. That's an ascent. I've earned my stripes, you know what I'm saying? Like, and that is a path worth walking. All right. Again, I'm not saying it's wrong to use certain plants. I would argue that if you're going to do something like this, do it with a very clear intention and use something that like nature put there and hasn't been altered, like mushrooms or peyote or something like that. But all right, this is the last thing I'm going to share with you guys, because I think this is really this is coming from my own personal experience, and so that's going to give it more power, because this is true. Okay, so before I got on this path, the retention path, the spiritual path, that like really like actually walking it, not just thinking about it, it's like it made a trip from up here to here, and now I'm living it. I'm not just thinking about it, talking about it, So what I thought, there was a point where things were so dark for me, where I thought that I was going to need to go to the jungle and do ayahuasca, or I was really considering this, or I thought I was going to have to go to Mexico or all the way to Africa to work with the Bwiti tribe and do iboga, because I thought I was so messed up. I was so lost. I was so broken. And I knew I needed something like dramatic to change in my life. And so I was starting to seek out these things, and I was very serious, and I was like, gonna go do this. And then funnily enough, my full surrender brought this Holy Spirit in. And ever since that, it's doing everything for me that I thought I needed to get from these other avenues. If that makes sense. So all of a sudden I'm in this place where like the thought of going to the jungle and doing ayahuasca, or going to Africa and doing Ebo, it's like, it just doesn't make sense to me. Maybe just out of pure curiosity, if somebody wanted to like fund the whole trip and send me there, maybe I'd try it out of curiosity. Like I said, I'm not against it. I'm just not necessarily for it. Like, I don't need that, because there's nothing that God can't do for me, right? It's like I don't need tarot. I don't need crystals. I don't need sage and incense. I don't need rituals. I don't need a shaman. I don't need any of that stuff, you guys, because I have a connection with spirit, right? And isn't that what everybody's trying to get through psychedelics, is a greater connection to spirit? Well, I'm telling you from my own personal experience that if you get in accordance with natural law and live by righteous principles, you'll find yourself in those states, and they'll be sustainable and explainable. You'll actually be able to operate in the world with this level of consciousness. To me, that's clearly ideal. Okay. So before it goes on too long, I hope this was useful. I appreciate you guys. If you're enjoying the content, please hit that like button, subscribe, share, all that stuff. Let's grow this community. Let's spread truth. Let's spread positivity. Let's be healthy, happy, whole versions of ourselves. All right. Signing out.